In a world where power and ambition rule every heartbeat, one calculated decision can unravel decades of carefully guarded secrets. At the peak of his success, Adam Rivers orchestrates a wedding designed to flaunt his triumph and to exact a final, silent revenge on the woman he once cast aside. Fate, however, has a way of challenging even the most impenetrable facades, and as the grand celebration unfolds, a shocking truth emerges that forces him to confront a past he thought was long dead. If you crave more gripping stories of redemption and betrayal, subscribe now and join us on this unforgettable journey. Adam Rivers sat behind his polished mahogany desk in a towering glass-walled office that overlooked a city ablaze with ambition. Every detail in his empire spoke of success, a carefully constructed monument to his relentless drive. Today, as the golden afternoon light spilled over the skyline, Adam's thoughts were consumed by the upcoming event that would cement his legacy, his wedding to the illustrious Hollywood actress Victoria Lawrence. To Adam, this wedding was not merely a personal celebration, but a public declaration of power, the final jewel in his crown of achievements. Yet, as he meticulously reviewed the guest list, a dark spark of malice stirred within him. Amid the carefully curated names of influential business magnates, renowned entertainers, and political figures, one name stood out like a faded relic of a past he had long buried: Naomi Brooks. Naomi was his ex-wife, a woman who had once shared in his youthful passion and reckless dreams, but had ultimately failed to fit into his grand vision of success. In the early days of his empire, when ambition burned in both their hearts, Naomi had been his partner, if only for a fleeting moment. But as his empire grew, so did his disdain for anything that did not serve his monumental ambitions. Now, with Victoria by his side, Adam craved more than a pristine wedding. He longed for a vindictive twist, a chance to see Naomi face the consequences of abandoning him. His heart darkened as he picked up the phone, instructing his assistant in a tone that left no room for doubt. Send an invitation to Naomi Brooks personally. Let her know she is expected. There was a perverse satisfaction in imagining her stepping into his world of opulence, only to witness how far she had fallen behind. In that moment, every detail of his planned celebration, the gleaming chandeliers, the perfectly arranged florals, the orchestrated arrival of the city's elite, became weapons in his arsenal of revenge. Adam's mind raced with visions of Naomi's quiet humiliation as she saw the embodiment of everything she had lost. He recalled how, long ago, he had loved her with a reckless passion, yet she demanded something deeper than his ambition would ever allow him to give. Now, he intended to prove that his success was the only truth that mattered. The invitation, elegantly scripted on thick cream-colored paper, carried the promise of a grand spectacle where all eyes would be on him. Yet, as his cold calculation sealed that envelope, a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor of uncertainty flickered in the back of his mind. Perhaps it was merely a fleeting doubt, a remnant of the man he used to be when Naomi was still a part of his life. But he quickly dismissed it, replacing it with the confidence of a self-made titan who had never known defeat. In that charged atmosphere, the invitation became the fulcrum upon which his future would pivot. It was not just a summons to a wedding. It was a challenge to the past, a deliberate provocation meant to underscore his ascent above those who once held him back. As he leaned back in his designer chair, fingers steepled in anticipation, Adam smiled. A slow, cold smile that promised retribution and triumph in equal measure. The stage was set for a confrontation that would not only expose long-hidden secrets, but also redefine the very essence of who he had become. Naomi Brooks had long since retreated from the glittering world that Adam now dominated. In her modest, sunlit studio, the scent of fresh paint and turpentine filled the air, a constant reminder of the life she had chosen over wealth and opulence. Here, amidst canvases and brushes, she rediscovered the raw emotions that life had once stirred within her, channeling them into vibrant works of art that spoke of passion, loss, and renewal. As she put the final strokes on her latest piece, she heard the gentle rustle of an envelope being slid through her mail slot. The cream-colored envelope, with its elegant script, was an unexpected relic from a past Naomi had long closed off. It bore the unmistakable seal of Adam Rivers and, As she read the invitation to his high-profile wedding, a torrent of memories flooded her mind. She recalled a time when their love had burned fiercely, when she had believed in the possibility of building a shared future. But those dreams had crumbled under the weight of Adam's ambition, leaving her to forge a different path, a quieter life defined by struggle, creativity, and the unconditional love for her three sons, Caleb, Jaden, and Eli. As Naomi read the invitation again, her stomach churned with a mix of apprehension and something deeper, a need to confront the unspoken questions that had haunted her for years. Her sons, now growing older, had begun to ask about their father. In a world where other children knew both parents, they only had her story, one that was incomplete without the truth. Naomi had always shielded them from the full extent of their father's abandonment, yet the questions lingered like shadows in the corners of their home. After much soul-searching, she realized that attending the wedding was not an act of bitterness. Instead, it was a promise of closure, a chance to reconcile the fragments of a past that still shaped her present. She knew that stepping back into Adam's world would be painful, but it was also necessary for the sake of her sons. With each passing moment, her resolve grew stronger. This was not about reliving old wounds, but about reclaiming the narrative of her life and, in turn, the lives of her children. Quietly, Naomi folded the invitation and set it aside. The decision was made, not for Adam, not to seek revenge, but for the sake of truth and the legacy that her sons deserved to know. In that humble studio, with the echo of her own heartbeat and the soft hum of creativity all around her, Naomi prepared herself for the confrontation that would inevitably unfold. She was determined to face Adam and reveal the secret he had so carefully hidden, the three boys who bore an uncanny resemblance to him. As dusk began to settle outside her window, Naomi looked out over the city with quiet determination. There would be no dramatic declarations or tearful confrontations. Instead, her presence at the wedding was a silent testament to the strength it had taken to rebuild her life alone. In choosing to attend, she was not surrendering to the past, but rather accepting the responsibility of shaping a future where her children's heritage could no longer be denied. Her decision was both an act of defiance and an act of love, a promise that the truth, no matter how painful, would finally come to light. The day of Adam Rivers' wedding dawned with a palpable sense of grandeur and anticipation. Set against a breathtaking backdrop of cliffs that overlooked the Pacific Ocean, the sprawling estate had been transformed into a palace of opulence. Gleaming marble floors, cascading floral arrangements, and ornate golden chandeliers greeted every guest as they arrived in sleek, black cars, each step along the red carpet meticulously choreographed to reflect Adam's penchant for perfection. Inside the grand hall, the atmosphere was electric. The mingling of high-profile guests, from influential business magnates to celebrities and political dignitaries, created a buzz that was as much about the spectacle as it was about the union being celebrated. Every detail of the evening had been planned with surgical precision, from the soft strains of classical music played live by an orchestra to the subtle whispers of anticipation among the crowd. At the entrance, Adam stood, the epitome of refined confidence in his tailored tuxedo. His sharp features, lit by the soft glow of the chandeliers, betrayed nothing of the undercurrent of anxiety that lay beneath his cool exterior. Beside him, Victoria Lawrence radiated elegance in a gown that captured both modern sophistication and timeless beauty. To the onlookers, they were the perfect power couple, united not just in matrimony, but in the promise of an empire that spanned more than just wealth. Yet amid the lavish decor and orchestrated perfection, Adam's thoughts were fixated on one absent figure, Naomi Brooks. Though her RSVP had been noncommittal at best, he couldn't shake the image of her walking through those doors, her presence a silent reminder of the past he had worked so hard to overcome. Deep within him, a part of him reveled in the thought of exposing her to the splendor he had built without her. He relished the idea of her witnessing every meticulously arranged detail of his life, a life that now belonged to Victoria. The hall's grand doors swung open with a quiet, almost imperceptible sound. Conversations faltered, and every pair of eyes turned toward the entrance. Naomi had arrived. With quiet dignity, she stepped forward, her gaze steady and unyielding, as if she had anticipated this moment for years. In her wake followed 3 young boys, Caleb, Jaden, and Eli, dressed in matching suits. Their innocent expressions, curious eyes, and the uncanny resemblance to Adam stirred a silence that fell over the room like a thick fog. The arrival was more than just an appearance. It was a revelation. Whispers rippled through the crowd. The boys' features were unmistakable echoes of Adam's youthful charm. In that instant, the meticulously planned narrative of the evening began to unravel. Victoria's radiant smile faltered as she exchanged a brief, charged glance with Adam. For him, time seemed to slow as he absorbed the reality of what was unfolding. His past, embodied in Naomi and their children, had re-emerged in the midst of his grand celebration, a past he had tried so hard to erase. In that moment, the wedding transformed from a triumph of power and success into a stage for reckoning. The contrast between the lavish surroundings and the raw, unfiltered truth was stark. As Naomi walked confidently across the threshold, every guest's attention shifted to the dramatic collision of 2 worlds, one built on relentless ambition and the other on quiet resilience and love. And with every step she took, the promise of a new beginning mingled with the undeniable echo of a life once lost. As the silence in the grand hall deepened, Adam felt an indescribable tension ripple through him. The revelation of Naomi's presence and the 3 boys had pierced the carefully constructed facade of his perfect wedding. Standing there, bathed in the soft glow of chandeliers and surrounded by the elite, he struggled to reconcile the past with the present. His eyes locked on Naomi, whose calm, resolute expression belied the storm of emotions that must have roiled beneath her surface. Naomi moved with an effortless grace, unhurried and purposeful. When she reached the center of the room, she paused. The weight of unspoken history hung in the air, charged with both regret and an unwavering determination. "I didn't come here for you, Adam." She spoke softly yet with an authority that resonated through the silence. Her voice, steady and unyielding, carried the truth that had been hidden away for too long. The revelation was not just about the boys, but about a legacy, one that Adam had tried so desperately to control and conceal. As her words echoed, the guests exchanged uneasy glances. It wasn't merely a reunion. It was a public unveiling of the secrets that had haunted Adam for years. In that charged moment, the carefully maintained image of the invincible self-made billionaire began to crack. The boys, standing at Naomi's side, embodied the undeniable proof of a past that Adam had abandoned. Their innocent faces, so alike his own, were a silent testament to a truth that demanded acknowledgement. Victoria, standing near Adam, felt her carefully constructed world begin to crumble. Her eyes, wide with disbelief and a flicker of envy, shifted between the estranged woman and the boys who represented everything she could never be. For Adam, the realization was overwhelming, a sudden, gut-wrenching understanding that his triumph was built on foundations of neglect and secrets. The room, once a celebration of his impeccable taste and unrivaled success, now bore the weight of betrayal. In that profound moment of revelation, Adam's mind raced back to the early days of his career when ambition and love had once coexisted. He remembered the fervor with which he had built his empire, the countless sacrifices made along the way. And he recalled the painful truth that Naomi had been a casualty of that relentless drive. Now, confronted with the living proof of that forsaken past, the veneer of control began to shatter. The murmurs in the hall grew louder. Every guest, every influential figure in attendance, was now witness to the dramatic collision of Adam's 2 worlds, the public spectacle of his power and the private reality of his legacy. The gravity of the moment was not lost on anyone. Naomi's calm, measured tone was a quiet indictment of a man who had let ambition override everything else. It was an awakening that none present would soon forget. For a long, charged minute, no one spoke. The silence was heavy with unspoken judgments, painful truths, and the inevitability of change. Adam stood motionless, his face a mask of disbelief and inner turmoil. In that silence, the truth had been delivered with finality. Naomi's eyes, unyielding and resolute, met his. Without a word, she conveyed that the past was not something to be hidden or erased. It was an inescapable part of who they both were. And in that realization, The true cost of Adam's ambition was laid bare for all to see. The revelation sent shockwaves through the grand hall. The carefully choreographed atmosphere of celebration gave way to a charged tension, and whispers began to swell into an audible murmur. For Victoria Lawrence, the unveiling of Adam's secret past was nothing short of a personal betrayal. Standing beside him in her intricately designed gown, she felt a chill as her perfect world began to crumble. Her eyes darted between Adam's pained expression and the undeniable evidence of a past he had tried so hard to conceal. The three boys whose faces mirrored his own. Victoria's reaction was immediate and instinctive. She stepped back slightly, her posture rigid, as if creating a physical barrier between herself and the chaos unfolding before her. The room, which had once celebrated opulence and power, now buzzed with speculation. Every guest was transfixed, their conversations a blend of shock, disbelief, and curiosity. The whispers turned into quiet accusations, and the news of billionaire Adam Rivers' secret children was already spreading like wildfire through the corridors of high society. For Adam, the scene was a living nightmare. His meticulously built empire now felt fragile in the face of raw, unfiltered truth. He had orchestrated this day to showcase his achievements, to solidify his legacy. Instead, he was now confronted with the stark reality that the very foundation of his life was riddled with secrets. Every glance, every murmur, pierced him like shards of broken glass. In his mind, he replayed the countless sacrifices, the years of relentless ambition that had propelled him to this pinnacle, and now, in one devastating moment, he realized that his success had come at an irreversible cost. Outside, the opulent setting of the wedding estate stood in stark contrast to the emotional turmoil within. Guests who had arrived with expectations of witnessing a flawless union were now grappling with the messy, painful intersections of love, regret, and lost opportunities. As reporters and photographers scrambled to capture every moment of the unfolding drama, Victoria's disapproving glare cut through the scene. With every step she took away from Adam, the distance between them grew, symbolic of not just a marital rift, but of a deeper, more profound betrayal. Meanwhile, Naomi maintained her composure with a quiet dignity that only deepened the impact of her revelation. Her calm voice had delivered a message that resonated beyond the surface of the scandal. It was a declaration that the truth was something no amount of wealth or power could ever erase. The presence of the boys, innocent yet forever changed by the legacy of their absent father, was a poignant reminder that the past always finds a way of resurfacing, no matter how carefully it is hidden. In that charged atmosphere, Adam's heart pounded with a mix of regret, anger, and a dawning realization that his carefully orchestrated life was now in jeopardy. His eyes sought refuge in the crowd, desperately trying to find an explanation, a sign that this could be undone. But the truth was immutable. Naomi's revelation had set off a chain reaction, a fallout that was destined to reshape the lives of everyone in that grand hall. It was a moment of reckoning, a time when the true cost of ambition was laid bare, and the once unassailable fortress of Adam Rivers began to crumble under the weight of its own secrets. The atmosphere in the hall grew increasingly oppressive after the revelation. Conversations died down as the full impact of the moment settled over the guests like a heavy, unyielding fog. In that charged silence, Naomi's next move was as deliberate as it was inevitable. With her head held high in a calm that belied the storm inside, she began to walk slowly toward the exit. Every step she took seemed to echo with the quiet resolve of a woman who had spent years rebuilding a life on her own terms. Adam, standing frozen in the center of the chaos, watched her departure with a mixture of disbelief and dawning panic. The realization that his carefully crafted wedding had now transformed into a public stage for his hidden past hit him with a force he had never experienced. Each step Naomi took away from the grand hall was like a confirmation of the irreversible damage that had been done. The weight of regret pressed down on him as he struggled to comprehend the magnitude of what he had lost, a part of himself that could never be reclaimed. Victoria, standing just a few steps away, looked on with a mixture of vindication and sorrow. For her, Naomi's exit was a clear signal that she would not allow herself to be associated with a man whose past was as murky as the secrets he had buried for so long. Her eyes, filled with a cold determination, shifted between Adam and Naomi, silently acknowledging that something irreparable had been shattered. The elegantly arranged facade of the wedding began to crack under the pressure of raw, unfiltered truth. Outside the hall, the cool evening air offered a stark contrast to the stifling tension indoors. Naomi paused at the threshold, turning briefly to face the crowd gathered behind her. In that fleeting moment, her gaze met Adam's, a silent exchange loaded with every word unsaid, every pain endured, and every hope for redemption. It was a moment that spoke of finality, of an irrevocable decision to move forward without the weight of a past that could never be reconciled with the present. Inside, Adam's heart pounded with a mixture of regret and desperation. He tried to step forward, to call after her, to explain, but the words remained trapped behind a wall of shattered pride and fear. He had built his empire on calculated moves, on the cold logic of ambition, and now he found himself helpless in the face of a truth that defied every strategy he had ever known. The very essence of his power, the unyielding certainty he had once relied upon, was slipping through his fingers like sand. In that painful instant, Adam realized that his life was no longer defined by business deals and grand gestures. It was defined by the truth, one that had emerged from the shadows to reclaim its place in the light. Naomi's exit was more than a physical departure. It was a decisive break from a past that had cost him dearly. As the doors closed behind her, a terrible clarity settled over him. He had lost something irreplaceable, a part of himself, a connection to the life he had forsaken. Standing alone amid the opulence that now felt cold and empty, Adam understood that this moment marked a turning point. His heart ached with regret, but the truth was irrevocable. The exit of Naomi and her sons was a final statement, a silent promise that some things, once lost, could never be reclaimed. And as the murmurs of the crowd swelled into a cacophony of judgment and disbelief, Adam stood alone, facing the bitter realization that his perfect world was nothing more than an illusion. Back in the solitude of his penthouse later that night, Adam Rivers found himself alone with the echoes of the day. The luxurious space, once a sanctuary of success, now felt suffocating and barren. Every detail, from the sleek modern furnishings to the expansive windows that showcased the glittering city below, seemed to mock him with reminders of what he had built at the expense of everything else. In the silence, his mind replayed the haunting images of Naomi's composed exit and the three boys whose innocent faces carried the weight of his neglect. For the first time, Adam allowed himself to dwell on the past, a past filled with choices made in the relentless pursuit of power and success. He remembered the countless sacrifices, friendships severed, relationships abandoned, and moments of tenderness replaced by ruthless ambition. Each memory was now tainted by the bitter realization that in his quest for domination, he had lost something far more precious. Naomi's departure was not just a personal setback. It was the irrevocable loss of a connection that had once defined him, a part of his life that he had long since tried to forget. As he paced across the polished floors of his penthouse, Adam's thoughts turned to the three boys. Their lives, so intricately intertwined with his own, had been shaped by his absence, their existence a constant reminder of a legacy he had never truly acknowledged. The pain of neglect, the guilt of not being there when they needed him most, gnawed at him with every step. He realized that every calculated move, every business deal, had been pursued at the expense of a truth he could no longer ignore. The truth that success meant nothing if it came at the cost of human connection. In the quiet darkness of his luxurious solitude, regret took hold of him. It was a deep, aching remorse that permeated every corner of his being. The opulence that had once been his pride now seemed a prison built on hollow victories. He had conquered the business world, had commanded respect and admiration from countless peers, but he had also allowed his personal life to crumble. The image of Naomi walking away, her eyes steady with unspoken resolve, haunted him relentlessly. For the first time, Adam found himself questioning the very foundation of his ambitions. What had it truly cost him? Was a legacy built solely on wealth and power worth the sacrifice of genuine love and connection? The answers were now painfully clear. The regret was not simply about the day's events. It was about every moment in which he had chosen ambition over the possibility of a more meaningful life. He recognized that his past was a series of missed opportunities, each one compounding into the stark reality he now faced. In that moment of introspection, the penthouse, once a symbol of his invincibility, became a mirror reflecting the emptiness of his achievements. The silence was profound, punctuated only by the distant hum of the city that continued its relentless pulse outside his window. Adam's heart, heavy with the weight of regret, acknowledged that he had lost something far more valuable than any corporate triumph: the chance to be a part of something real, something enduring. And as he sat alone, the bitter truth settled in. He had never truly known what it meant to love and be loved. This regret, painful and undeniable, would forever shape the remainder of his days. In the dim light of dawn, with the memories of the wedding still haunting him, Adam made a decision he never thought he would. The silence of his penthouse was broken only by the soft hum of the city awakening below, yet his mind was filled with one overwhelming thought: he had to reach out. With trembling determination, he retrieved his phone from the desk, a device that had long been a tool of business rather than a bridge to a lost past. His fingers hovered over Naomi's contact name, a relic from another era when love and ambition had once intertwined. The act of calling felt both desperate and significant, as if he were attempting to mend the shattered pieces of a life he had so carelessly dismantled. His thumb pressed the call button, and the phone rang once, twice, each ring echoing in the hollow space of his heart, before it finally went to voicemail. When Naomi's recorded greeting played, her voice, calm and measured, resonated with the quiet resolve of a woman who had long learned not to be swayed by empty apologies. In that moment, Adam realized that a single phone call could never undo the years of neglect, the countless missed opportunities to be a father, a partner, or a man capable of love. Yet, it was a start, a small, tentative step toward acknowledging a truth he had long buried beneath layers of ambition. He sat down heavily in his leather chair, the soft glow of the morning light illuminating his troubled expression. The silence that followed the call was thick with unspoken questions. Did she even want to speak with him? Could he ever hope to repair the damage wrought by decades of relentless pursuit of success? The questions swirled around him like a storm, each one a reminder of everything he had lost. Adam knew that his call was not a plea for forgiveness. It was an admission of failure, an attempt to bridge the vast chasm between his past and the present. The regret of neglecting those who mattered most was now etched deeply into his soul, and the simple act of reaching out was both humbling and necessary. In that quiet morning moment, as he listened to the final beep of his voicemail, he understood that rebuilding trust would be a long, arduous journey. Yet, he was determined to try, not for himself, but for the legacy that his absence had left behind. As the call ended, a silent vow formed within him, a vow to face the truth, however painful it might be, and to slowly, painstakingly reclaim the parts of his life he had once thought irretrievable. The phone call was over, but the journey had only just begun. With a heavy heart and a newfound sense of responsibility, Adam prepared himself for the difficult road ahead, a road where every step would be a testament to the possibility of redemption and the hope of forgiveness. Determined to bridge the chasm that had widened over the years, Adam resolved to see Naomi in person. He tracked her down to a quiet park, a serene contrast to the opulence of his own world, where she was spending time with the boys. Under the soft glow of late afternoon sunlight, the park was a haven of laughter and whispered conversations, a place where children played freely, their voices carrying the promise of a new beginning. As Adam approached, he felt the heavy weight of anticipation and regret pressing on him. The sight of Naomi with Caleb, Jaden, and Eli stirred memories of a past filled with both joy and sorrow. The boys, dressed in neat outfits that echoed their mother's careful attention, ran around with a carefree energy that Adam had long forgotten existed in his own life. Caleb, ever the observant one, was the first to notice him. His eyes narrowed slightly as he stepped forward, his small frame exuding a quiet authority. "You're the guy from the wedding," Caleb stated bluntly, his tone a mix of curiosity and caution. The words, so simple yet heavy with meaning, cut through the still air. Naomi, standing close by, regarded Adam with an unreadable expression, one that held memories of past betrayals, but also the faint glimmer of hope that perhaps, this time, things could be different. Adam's heart pounded in his chest as he tried to find the right words, a way to express remorse, to acknowledge the deep scars his absence had left. But as he looked into the eyes of Caleb, and then saw the guarded yet curious faces of Jaden and Eli, he understood that this meeting was not about apologies or grand declarations. It was about taking the first tentative step toward being a part of their lives, a step that had to be earned, not demanded. Naomi's voice broke the silence with measured calmness. "This is Adam Rivers," she said, deliberately not using any titles that might soften the truth. The statement was clear and unadorned, an invitation for the boys to define who he might be in their lives, without the trappings of the man who had once been so consumed by ambition. In that moment, the park became a battleground of old wounds and tentative beginnings. Adam's eyes searched the faces before him for any sign of forgiveness. He realized that every step he had taken in life had led to this moment, a moment of reckoning, where the past met the future head-on. The weight of years of neglect and missed opportunities pressed down on him as he knelt to meet Caleb's gaze. "I'm here," he said quietly, his voice heavy with sincerity and vulnerability. "I want to be here, if you'll let me." The simplicity of his words resonated in the open space, as the boys' initial skepticism slowly gave way to cautious curiosity. It was not an immediate reconciliation, nor was it a promise of transformation overnight. It was merely the beginning of a long, hard process of earning trust. Naomi watched silently from the background, her expression a blend of caution and guarded optimism. The meeting was not just about Adam trying to reclaim his role as a father. It was about allowing the boys the space to decide who he might be in their lives, free of any preconceived notions. As the afternoon light softened into a gentle glow, the park scene became a quiet testament to the possibility of change. In that moment, the promise of a future built on genuine connection flickered faintly, a future where love might, in time, heal even the deepest of wounds. In the weeks that followed that first tentative meeting, Adam found himself navigating a landscape far more challenging than boardrooms and corporate deals, the landscape of earning the trust of his own children. Each day was a lesson in humility as he witnessed the subtle ways the boys tested his sincerity. Caleb's direct challenges, Jaden's cautious observations, and Eli's quiet, reflective demeanor became the true markers of his progress. Adam dedicated himself to small, meaningful gestures. He learned the little details of their lives, Caleb's insatiable curiosity about the world, Jaden's passion for soccer, and Eli's artistic spirit, which he nurtured with gentle encouragement. Slowly, the children began to acknowledge his presence, though not without the weight of past neglect. Every shared smile, every awkward conversation in the park, was a fragile thread weaving together the possibility of a new relationship, a relationship built not on grand gestures, but on consistency and care. Naomi watched this slow process with a mixture of cautious hope and steely resolve. She had spent years protecting her sons from the pain of abandonment, and she would not allow their hearts to be broken again. She offered guidance from a respectful distance, ensuring that Adam understood that his presence was a privilege to be earned, not a birthright. Her silent support was both a challenge and a reassurance, a reminder that trust, once lost, could only be rebuilt through genuine effort and unwavering commitment. Adam, too, was forced to confront the mistakes of his past. Every moment with the boys was a lesson in empathy and responsibility, a humbling reminder that his life of ruthless ambition had come at an immeasurable cost. He listened intently as Caleb shared his small victories and setbacks, and he cheered softly as Jaden practiced his soccer kicks under the gentle encouragement of his peers. With Eli, Adam discovered a shared love for quiet moments, sitting together in a sunlit corner of the park, sketching dreams on worn-out paper. Despite the progress, there were moments of tension that belied the fragile nature of their budding relationship. Caleb's defiant remarks, laced with the sting of years of abandonment, cut deep. Yet each time Adam responded with quiet humility rather than defensiveness. In those moments, he realized that his efforts were not merely about making up for lost time, but about forging a new path that recognized the complexities of their shared past. As the days turned into weeks, the park became their meeting ground, a neutral space where the boundaries of old wounds were slowly redrawn. There were small victories, a shared laugh over an awkward joke, a tentative handshake that hinted at reconciliation, and the gentle nod of acknowledgement that came with understanding. These moments, while modest, carried the weight of true progress, a tangible sign that trust was not entirely lost. Adam's commitment extended beyond the park. He began participating in the children's daily routines, helping with homework, cheering at their extracurricular events, and even learning how to cook a simple meal under Naomi's watchful eye. Each interaction, no matter how small, was a step toward proving that he could be present, that he could be a part of their lives in a way that was both respectful and enduring. Naomi, ever the guardian of their fragile world, maintained her silent vigil. She saw the transformation in Adam, not as a grand metamorphosis, but as a gradual, heartfelt effort to right past wrongs. Her guarded optimism was a quiet approval, a promise that if Adam continued on this path, there might someday be a place for him in her sons' hearts. And so, in the gentle rhythm of everyday life, amidst the challenges and the tentative smiles, a new bond began to form. It was built on time, patience, and the slow, deliberate process of earning trust. A bond that promised that, no matter how long it took, healing was possible even in the wake of deep-seated abandonment. As summer waned into a softer season of change, Adam found himself standing on the threshold of a transformation that went far beyond the world of business and grand achievements. The simple moments with Caleb, Jaden, and Eli gradually reshaped his understanding of what truly mattered. One crisp evening, while watching the children engrossed in a game of soccer in the fading light of a local park, Adam experienced a quiet epiphany that reverberated through his very core. Sitting on a weathered bench, he observed the boys with a tenderness he had never known. Caleb's fearless enthusiasm, Jaden's careful determination, and Eli's gentle creativity were not merely fleeting moments of childhood. They were a testament to resilience and the unspoken promise of a future built on genuine connection. The realization struck him deeply. The empire he had so diligently built was hollow if it was devoid of real human connection. In that moment, the relentless drive for power and control lost its luster. The transformation was subtle at first. Adam's interactions with the boys began to change from guarded exchanges to genuine moments of shared joy. He started attending their soccer matches, clapping and encouraging with heartfelt sincerity. He sat down with Caleb to help with a school project, listening intently as the boy's eyes lit up with each new idea. With Jaden, he learned the value of patience, joining in on slow, measured drills on the field. And with Eli, he discovered the quiet magic of creativity, a world where every line drawn and every color chosen was a step toward understanding one another. Naomi, always the watchful guardian, observed these changes with a mixture of hope and cautious skepticism. She had seen many men try to insert themselves into the lives of her sons, only to vanish behind grand promises and empty gestures. Yet, here was Adam, not with grand declarations, but with humble acts that spoke louder than any words ever could. His transformation was not sudden, but it was real, a soft but persistent shift from a man defined solely by ambition to one who recognized the irreplaceable value of love and responsibility. During one of their quiet evenings in the park, as the sky turned a brilliant shade of twilight, Adam found himself seated beside Naomi on a weathered bench. The conversation was sparse at first, punctuated by moments of reflective silence that carried the weight of years of pain and regret. "I never thought I'd see this day," Adam admitted quietly, his voice tinged with vulnerability. "I spent so long chasing success that I forgot what it means to truly care." Naomi regarded him with her steady, unyielding eyes. There was a challenge there, a silent demand for proof that his words were not empty promises. "Your actions speak louder than those words, Adam," she said softly, reminding him that trust was not rebuilt through declarations but through consistent effort. It was in that delicate balance of silent understanding and honest confession that Adam recognized how much he had to prove. The shift in his perspective was now undeniable. It was no longer enough to simply be present. He had to actively participate in the lives of the boys, to become a father in every sense of the word. This realization brought with it a quiet determination. He began delegating responsibilities in his company, relinquishing the need to control every detail so he could devote more time to what truly mattered. The transformation was not a grand spectacle, but a series of small, deliberate actions that slowly mended the fractures of his past. Over time, the bond between Adam and the boys began to solidify. The park visits turned into weekend outings, and the simple moments of shared laughter grew into a tapestry of memories that, though modest, were filled with genuine warmth. Naomi watched from a respectful distance, her guarded optimism bolstered by every small victory. It was as if a dormant part of Adam had finally awakened, a part that yearned for connection, for redemption, for a future that included those he had once abandoned. And so, in the gentle ebb and flow of these transformative days, Adam's world shifted imperceptibly but irrevocably. The man who had once been defined by ruthless ambition was now learning to be defined by love and responsibility. The echo of his past mistakes remained, but it was slowly being replaced by a new melody, a song of hope, of healing, and of the promise that it was never too late to rebuild what truly mattered. One cool evening, as the soft hues of dusk painted the sky over the familiar park, a defining moment arrived. The air was crisp with a hint of autumn, and the laughter of Caleb, Jaden, and Eli filled the quiet spaces where old wounds had once lingered. The park had become a sanctuary, a place where the slow, deliberate process of rebuilding trust had blossomed into genuine connection. Adam sat on a familiar bench, his eyes watching the boys as they played with an intensity and innocence that had once been so foreign to him. The echoes of their laughter, the gentle interplay of hope and joy in their expressions, now spoke of a future he had scarcely imagined possible. It was in that moment of quiet reflection that Caleb, with the earnest determination of a child who had seen too much, approached him. "Are you staying, or are you just passing through?" Caleb asked bluntly, his words carrying the weight of every disappointment and every hope he had ever harbored. In that charged silence, Adam's heart pounded with the gravity of the question. Here, in the space between past regrets and future possibilities, lay the ultimate decision. For years, Adam had built his life around the relentless pursuit of success, a success measured by wealth, power, and the accolades of the elite. But now, the question posed by Caleb cut deeper than any business challenge he had ever faced. It was a question of legacy, of love, and of the promise he had made to himself and to the boys whose lives he had inadvertently shaped. Looking into Caleb's earnest eyes, Adam felt the weight of every missed moment, every hollow victory that had cost him dearly. The transformation he had begun was not merely about mending a broken relationship. It was about redefining who he was. He realized that the legacy of his life was not written in the boardrooms or in the headlines, but in the quiet moments shared with those who had been waiting for him all along. Slowly, Adam's voice emerged, steady and resolute despite the tremor of vulnerability beneath it. "I'm staying," he said, each word imbued with a sincerity that resonated with the truth of his soul. The statement was simple, yet it carried the weight of a lifetime of regrets and a newfound promise of redemption. In that moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon and bathed the park in golden light, the choice was made. No more fleeting appearances, no more half-hearted attempts. He would be a part of their lives, not as a distant memory of a past marred by ambition, but as a father who was ready to learn, to grow, and to love unconditionally. Naomi, who had been watching from a respectful distance, felt a glimmer of cautious hope. She saw in Adam's eyes a sincerity that had once been lost amid the ruthless pursuit of success. The journey ahead would not be easy. Trust could not be rebuilt overnight. But the choice was made, and with it came the promise of a future where love and responsibility reigned supreme. As the cool evening settled in and the laughter of the children mingled with the rustle of autumn leaves, Adam stood and took a deep breath. The moment marked not just an end to a painful chapter, but the beginning of a new story, one where redemption was possible, and where every small, deliberate act of kindness could pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. In that defining moment, Amidst the soft glow of dusk and the gentle murmur of hope, Adam Rivers embraced his choice. A choice to be present, to be genuine, and above all, to be a father in every sense of the word. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.